Blue Compass, where we are talking about how to choose the right web design and development partner. Now, your website is obviously incredibly important, but just as important is the web design and development company that you work with. You want to choose a partner that will help you set up a successful website that brings in a lot of quality traffic, that gets conversions, but also a partner that helps you with any digital marketing that you need, that helps you continue to grow your website and make it more and more effective. So today I have Stephanie Wubin, our Director of Business Development, with me. And Stephanie and I have been involved in creating hundreds and hundreds of websites along with the Blue Compass team here. And so we're going to share some of our expertise with you today. And so number one, the very first quality of a good web design and development partner is that they listen. Stephanie, it's really important whenever an organization chooses the partner to work with that they choose someone who actually cares, who wants to take the time and effort to listen to the goals of the organization, to figure out who the target audience is, not just someone who wants to check off some boxes and just figure out what they need to put a proposal together.
Yeah, the focus should really be on the client and not on the organization. You know, a lot of times someone might come in and do this big fancy presentation and it sounds all great, but they've asked you nothing. And so the other component to listening is they have to take the time to get to know you, and they have to take the time to ask the right questions and really make you think too, so that you know as you're having these conversations, like, oh, this is like I'm revealing information to myself almost, because that's how you can tell that they're really digging and asking the right questions to find out what's going to work for you.
Yeah. If you have an individual or an agency or a web development company come in and just do a capabilities presentation, and if they're focusing on themselves more than your organization, that's kind of a red flag. And we've seen that happen before.
I think another important thing to know that they're listening is that, you can get some confirmation back from what they heard. So there's also passive listening where maybe they're just letting you talk, but they're not actually comprehending what you're saying. And so getting something in return that kind of confirms like, hey, we're all on the same page. We're working towards the same goals here. That's really important to look for too. So you know that they were taking what you had to say into consideration.
Yep. All right. Number two, they have positive team members who actually like each other. So this is incredibly important too, because when you choose a web design and development company, I mean, this is someone that you'll ideally be working with for years and years, and you want to ensure that you're working with a team that is happy, that cares about one another, that generally has a good culture internally, because if you choose an organization where the team members bicker and fight, they don't care about each other, that ultimately creates problems for you.
There's nothing more uncomfortable than sitting in a meeting with two other individuals who you know are not getting along, because you can feel that tension and that's not something you want. So you want to walk into that meeting with the partner that you choose and have a good time. You know, I've heard a lot of our clients say that the meetings that they have with us on their schedule, they look forward to, and it's actually like something that they're like, oh yeah, I get to meet with Blue Compass today. And that's because we have fun with each other and we like to be around each other. And that is something that you should look for in whatever company that you're going to work with.
Yeah, you want to work with someone you like, you enjoy, that you're not dreading getting together with them or hearing from them or anything like that. And I think so often that's missed. Sometimes organizations just look at the price tag or they just look at the time frame and they don't think enough about the partner. And we always say, don't just choose a platform, choose a partner. That's what's most important.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. It's also trickles down into the work that they're doing too. So if you have a team of people who enjoy working with each other and who support each other, then they're going to be all gung-ho to make sure they get you the best solutions possible for your website. They're not going to be putting up their own barriers and, causing issues for you to get your project completed. So making sure that the team that you're choosing to work with has a good vibe and gets along together is going to be beneficial to your project being successful, being creative. There's collaboration happening. There's new ideas, coming to light. So yeah, I think that all plays into that.
Yeah, and it helps if you're in the same room with them to be able to see how they interact together. But just even if you're not, virtually watching how they interact, but also asking them, hey, what's your culture like?
Mm-hmm.
What do you like about this organization that you work with? Stuff like that. I think that's important as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, number 3, they have experience launching successful websites.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we see organizations just choose one individual because it's less expensive, or maybe they choose a big traditional agency that's more focused on media buys and TV ads and things like that. But it's really important when you're selecting a web design and development partner to look at the work they've done in the past and ensure they've launched successful websites, they look good, they perform good, they've done this before, and they have a track record of success.
Yeah, I think a good way to tell this is not always by like a fancy case study, because those can take a long time to create and they might be old and not really relevant to what the agency or the web development partner is doing now. But you should be able to sit in the meeting with whoever it is in that first initial conversation and say, what are the last 3 websites you launched? Can you show me some of your favorite websites? And that's very telling, because I know I could come up with, I could sit there and show websites all day in a meeting. That's because we do a lot of them. That's because, we're near that work and we launch these websites all the time. But if someone isn't, that's going to be really hard for them to come up with, or they're only going to have a couple to show, or they won't really know. So that's a good way to tell, in addition to asking for, of course, a portfolio or something of that.
Yeah. And, we generally feel it's not as important to see websites from your same industry as it is to see websites that have a similar look and feel or the same functionality that you'll have, so you can actually see how it performs. I think that's really important too.
It doesn't matter if someone is in the same industry as you, because you want someone to have a wide breadth of experience designing for different styles, because that's going to show their versatility, that's going to show their flexibility. So you do have a lot of those companies out there who are like, we only do websites for dentists, or we only do websites for optometrists. So you're going to get a lot of similar standard, like boilerplate design. So I think it's always good to see the variety of industries that someone can design for.
And, if you get a website from a company that only creates websites for organizations in your industry, that means you are going to be competing with a lot of very, very similar websites. This organization creates probably, like you said, the same templates, very similar designs out there. There's probably very similar code and programming. Some of the search engine optimization could be very similar. So you're not differentiating yourself perhaps as much as you could with a different website. Right.
There's a line between has experience working in our industry and has no experience working in any other industry, and you want to make sure that you're somewhere in between there. You want someone who has a little bit of experience, maybe with some similar types of companies, so that maybe they know how you operate, but also you don't want that to be the only thing they've done.
Great. Okay, number 4, they have a process. It's so important to find a web design and development partner that actually has a proven process. And again, sometimes if it's an individual who hasn't done this before, they might not have a process. I use the example of a big traditional agency, and sometimes agencies don't have a great process for this because they don't necessarily do it a lot. Their focus is a lot more on getting ad spends and creating TV spots and doing a lot of other things. A website is just something they add on, and sometimes that's a recipe for trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not what the process is that's so important. It's just the fact that they have one, because it tells you that they've done it and they've been through it. If they have one, they've tried something and they've refined it. And so, every web development company should have a process for how to develop websites. So it's more of like, let's check that box.
All right, and number 5 is that they set clear expectations. So crucial, like no matter who you work with, it's important for you to set the expectations for this organization and vice versa, but 2 parties have to have the same expectations when they get into this, because if they don't, that's when problems happen.
Yeah, and scope creep. I mean, scope creep with a website is so real life if you do not know how to set those expectations.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not picking a partner who really has that process, who launches successful websites, they're not even going to know how to outline those expectations, which could lead to, you're 6 months past your launch date and you're $100,000 over budget or something. So it's so important that you confirm what you're hearing with a document from them. It needs to be more than just a proposal, because the proposal is kind of the fancy fanfare, but it should be a statement of work, a list of exactly what these things are going to do, what it's going to integrate with, and then responsibilities. So is that your team's responsibility to get, certain information? Is it the developer's responsibility? Are they doing some copywriting, or are you doing the copywriting? So all of those things have to be clearly outlined in order to make sure that the project's going to be successful. It's for everyone's benefit.
Make sure that you know what your team needs to do before you enter into this partnership too. Sometimes we see organizations think that they have to do more than they do. Sometimes we see organizations think that the web design and development company will do absolutely everything. But usually, before you choose your web vendor, you have to figure out yourself, what are your goals? You might have to write new content, maybe your web. So it's just really important to figure out who's going to do what and know that ahead of time. And he mentions the statement of work. That's really essential. It's not particularly fun to read through a statement of work, but it's super important to know exactly who's going to do what.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing is, this goes back to them listening. So part of coming up with the goals, like maybe you don't know your goals initially when you know you need a new website, but that individual that you're working with should be able to walk you through enough of those kinds of questions to help formulate those goals and come with them to the table. And, they can help you along with that. So that's another part of, setting the expectations also means you have to make sure that, they also have to have listened to you in those initial meetings. And the other thing is, I would always recommend, if you're not sure about something, ask.
Yes.
It's so much better to just reconfirm and ask. And, that's one of the reasons why we always send things as a draft. Like, hey, comment, give us your feedback. What do you think? We'll leave questions and things because we want to engage people and make sure we're on the right track. And sometimes it leads to conversations that, hey, they need all new copy and we never knew that before. So don't just assume that, what's going to happen. Make sure those expectations are outlined clearly.
Yep. Before we go on to number 6, if we can help you put together a website, we've done this a million times before. We're one of the leading web design and development companies in the Midwest. Just reach out to us. We'd be happy to have a conversation with you and see if we're a good fit for you. Okay, number 6, they value design, development, and digital marketing equally. This is really important.
Yes.
Why?
Because the design and the development and the digital marketing all work together to help you be successful online. If you're missing one of those pieces, then you're going to fall short. It's like the collaboration between digital marketers and developers that is so important, because so much of your website ranking high is code and so much of it is digital marketing. And so if you're missing one of those, you might have a beautifully designed website, but the code is clunky, it loads slow, and that's going to hurt you in SEO. You might have a beautifully coded website, but the design isn't there, the user experience isn't there, and so that's also going to hurt you. So having those elements all given equal attention to is what is going to set you up for success with whatever you do with your website.
Yeah. And oftentimes, web development companies will really lean more towards one or another. Sometimes if it's a small organization or an individual who's a designer, great design, it looks fantastic, but it's clunky, it loads slowly, the mobile-friendly appearance of the site isn't that great. And on the flip side, if you look at an organization that maybe is more of an IT organization and they develop, software and things like that, sometimes the design isn't quite there. And in both cases, maybe the digital marketing isn't there. It's really important for your partner that you choose to understand SEO as well, because the way it's designed, the user experience, and the code that you use are search engine optimization elements.
Mm-hmm.
Those greatly impact the search engine optimization.
Mm-hmm.
So, ask the right questions when you're interviewing different firms. Look at their portfolio. Ask them how they handle search engine optimization. If you can get references, talk to previous clients. That's really important.
Yeah, and people should be willing to say if they do value one of those over the other.
Mm-hmm.
There's usually some type of customization that can be done. So if you're more into design than you are development, okay, let's develop this as high quality as we can, but we're going to spend more time on design.
Mm-hmm.
If you're more into SEO and just being found, then okay, let's put some more time into the SEO aspect, and maybe not as much time into like custom functionality of the website. So it's always good to, if you have those kind of needs or those kind of preferences, to make sure that the organization has all of those capabilities and values them equally, but also to let them know that you have a preference and see if they're willing to accommodate that.
Yep. Number 7, they are experts in digital marketing. So this plays off what we just talked about, but a lot of organizations, whether it's an agency or web development firm, think a website is just design and development, and it's really not. And so it's important, if you care about ranking well, if you care about getting more conversions, more people to fill out the forms on your website, selling more products, it's so important to choose a website partner that understands digital marketing.
Mm-hmm. And one of the ways that you can tell is, what's their blog look like? If they're really committed to learning and staying on top of trends and changes, which Google just changed their ads platform yesterday. So it's constant. And so what does that blog look like? If they're really committed to it, if they're really experts, they're going to be sharing that. And they're going to have posts about it. They'll cover a wide variety of subjects. And so that's one way that you can tell if a company is committed to that.
Yep. And another way is, are the experts on their team speaking at different events? Are they asked to go to conferences and speak? Is there thought leadership that comes from the organization? Are they creating videos online that make sense and are inspirational, help you do better marketing? Like, check out their website and do your research on the organization before you choose them to see, are they actually experts? Do they know what they're talking about?
Absolutely. Your website should be a tool for your business. It should be as important as an employee who's sitting in a chair, right? It should have a job and it should do something and it should accomplish what it's designed and set out to do. And if you're missing the team of digital experts to help bring that to life, then you're just going to get a brochure. And if you just need a brochure, then that's a different story, I suppose. But
I think another way to look into this before you select a partner is to ask, what's the makeup of your team? Some large agencies will have, 1 million marketers and print people and just account executives, and they'll have like one developer. And if that's the case, maybe their development isn't quite as solid. Maybe. Or, maybe an organization has 15 developers and they have no one on their team that's a marketer, or there's few designers or whatever that might be. I think that's a good way to look into it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And do they talk to each other? So that's so important, because you might have a great group of digital experts and a great group of programmers, but if they're not communicating, then that knowledge is essentially wasted, because it's all lost when it comes to your website, because you're not getting any of that digital marketing expertise. So I think it's fair to ask, like, hey, how are ideas shared and collaborated throughout the team, and do you guys work together? Do they work together closely on projects? And that's something that could be very telling.
Number 8, they challenge your thinking. When you work with a website design and development partner, you want to select someone that challenges your thinking, that doesn't just take orders from you, but that has enough expertise to guide you to make your ideas even better.
Right, because if you're not looking for that, then build your own website on Squarespace.
Right, exactly.
I think that it's silly to hire a team of experts in both of those areas and then not listen to what they're saying. And it could be a controversial statement, like, you want them to challenge you, but it's always in a good way. It's always in a, hey, before you do that, before you go around that corner, don't, here's the reasons why we're suggesting that you don't do that. And as long as it's challenging, backed up by expertise, logic, previous data or experience they have,
and it's respectful,
then it should be well received. I'm not saying just, oh no, we don't like your idea, we prefer ours is a good thing, but
it's like if you want a house built for your family and you have the perfect vision in mind, you know exactly where you want all the rooms laid out and everything. You have all the expertise about your family. You know how your family works. And if you go to the right builder will say, oh, I hear what you're saying. I love those ideas. What if we actually move this room over here? What if we change this a little bit? Because the builder has the expertise to actually build that. I mean, they know things you don't know too. Both sides have expertise. And when you work together really well, you can improve each other's ideas and make something more effective.
Yeah.
What a great analogy.
Yeah. House building.
House building. All right. Number 9, they communicate throughout the project.
Yep.
Pretty important.
Yes.
We have heard many, many times from organizations that have worked with poor design and development partners that they just never hear from them. They're confused as to what's going on. They're not quite sure who to contact. And so we believe it's incredibly important to pick a website partner that gives you one main point of contact and that's really communicative and clear throughout the process.
Yeah, it's very important because, again, if you know what's happening, then it's better to plan around your workload too. So you're probably a marketer or you're a company owner and you have a whole other job going on. And so you need to feel confident that that person is on top of the project. And that doesn't mean that a ton of your time is required, but it does mean that you have someone to reach out to. Someone's going to be contacting you. And it's worth asking that question is, will I have a dedicated person for my project? And who is that? Is it the developer? Because sometimes, that's okay, but they're not a client services or account executive person. So that means they have another job. They're not fully dedicated to the job of serving you.
Yep. And also understand, what's the cadence here of communication? Are we going to have weekly meetings together for half an hour every Tuesday just to touch base? Are we going to be having calls? Are you going to send emails all the time? Understanding what to anticipate and just ensuring that communication will be very clear and not too much of a burden to you too. You want to make sure that maybe it's not too much communication. Maybe you're like, hey, I'm going to need you to just distill everything to me in a call every week, and that's it. Maybe that's important to you too. And then another thing is, there's going to be approval times as you build the website. And sometimes we'll work with clients that are smaller businesses and it's just a couple people that need to give us feedback. And so we have a full development schedule we put together and we give the client before we start. And so it's really clear when every single step of the way is going to happen, including the approval times. And so we could say, hey, on June 1st, we'll deliver you this design. On June 5th, we look for your feedback. But make sure those approval times are the right amount of time for your team. Some teams we work with, big corporations, they need 2 weeks, they need 3 weeks to get back to us because there's lots of people involved. So again, setting expectations and ensuring your team has enough time.
Yeah. I also think it's fair to ask how many clients is, on average, do your client service or account executive, project managers, whatever it happens to be, how many clients do they have?
Yes.
Because you don't want to be one of 200, right? So it's a valid question that can give you some more insight into what to expect on the other end.
If they have one project manager and that project manager is juggling 30 different clients at the same time, that might not give you the bandwidth that you need. Okay, and last but not least, number 10, they do not disappear after the website launches.
Yes.
So again, this is something we hear from new clients we receive. They'll say sometimes, our current partner that we work with, we should never hear from them. We launched the site and they disappeared.
I mean, sometimes there's like, okay, the website's done. We don't want to hear from you for like a couple months, right? and we understand that. So there's that, that period where we kind of let the dust settle. But you want to know that partner that you're choosing has some plan in place for if you do need them, and that they're not like, okay, done, bye. We don't want to talk to you again. Do they have systems? Do they have programs? Is there some type of maintenance that you can get into? Do they have any type of ongoing support? So if you're going to spend the time and money to develop a website with someone, you need to know that you're not on your own as soon as it's done, because you're going to need help. That's why they developed it in the first place, because you couldn't do it on your own.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, no website should ever just launch and then it's done forever. In a perfect world, you check out the analytics on the website, you see what's working, what's not, you add content, you optimize, you improve the website, it gets more effective, it brings you more people to come to the site, you get more conversions if you do everything right. And your website partner can help with that. Even if you have a marketing team, your website development company can assist with that as well, which is really important. And, I think over the years, there's so many changes that happen with Google and with other organizations, Stephanie, that really affect websites. Like Google's big Core Web Vitals update they had a while ago. That changed a lot of things for pages. And so we made sure to reach out to our clients and say, hey, this change happened. Here's what we believe you should do with your website. If you want us to help, we can help with it. Google Analytics 4 is something new, and it needed to be added to websites. And so we reached out to our clients and said, hey, this really needs to be added. Here's how you can do it, or we can do it for you. So just to be communicative enough to understand what's going on, because you probably don't have the time to follow everything that Google does. So you want to pick a great web firm that does that for you and isn't salesy, isn't pushy, but is there to give you some guidance where you need it.
Absolutely. It's like we have our goals of, reaching out to every one of our clients, even if we don't hear back or they're not doing any active work with us. If they have a website with us, we're going to make sure that we communicate with them multiple times a year. And sometimes that's, sending some analytics along or finding something valuable that we know is related to their business and touching base with them. But those are the little things that remind them like, oh yeah, there's that person that I could reach out to if I needed something.
And it's important to understand, does this firm that you're going to work with have ongoing retainers or packages? Like at Blue Compass, we have a digital marketing package, and it enables us to be an extension of our client's team. And every month we spend hours optimizing their website, getting them more traffic conversions. If you're serious about your conversions, if you're serious about your digital marketing, that's really positive. So that might be something you're interested in too.
One thing that reminds me of is when you hear people come in and they say, hey, I need a new website because my other company didn't keep it updated. And it's so outdated. The code's so old that they said I have to rebuild it. And so if someone isn't there constantly, updating the code for your website, it's going to become outdated really fast. On the other hand, sometimes you get people who say, hey, I demand that we have a WordPress website because then I can take it anywhere. And then they get a WordPress website and it's not maintained. And even if you took it to another WordPress developer, that WordPress developer would say, it's too out of date. We have to rebuild it. And so not only is it knowing that someone's there to reach out to you, but also that they're keeping your site updated and your code updated because technology is not slowing down anytime soon. So if you're not staying on top of it, you're going to have to start from scratch anyways.
Yeah, exactly. It might sound like a pain, but whether it's someone internally at your organization or it's your digital marketing partner, whoever it is, you have to make sure that someone is monitoring your website, keeping an eye on it, has some sort of a plan or strategy to continue to get results from it. It's like if you have an old car that's sitting in your driveway and you never drive it, you never spend time with it, eventually it'll break down. It's the same with a website. You got to show it a little love. You got to spend some time and effort on it to continue to get results.
Yeah, if you see a $5 hosting rate run.
Yeah.
Because your website's not being protected. It's not being updated.
You get what you pay for. That's right.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Stephanie, thank you for your expertise. This has been fantastic. And again, if we can help you with your website, we would love to talk. Just reach out to us here at bluecompass.com/contact. Thanks, and we'll talk to you next time.